Welcome back to the Worth Loving Podcast. I'm your host, Keana W. Mitchell, and I'm really grateful that you're here with me today. So if you clicked on this episode, I want to acknowledge something right away. You might be carrying a lot. Maybe your heart feels heavy. Maybe you're confused, angry, hopeful, or numb. Maybe you're asking yourself a question that feels almost too painful to say out loud. Should I take my cheating partner back? This is one of the hardest emotional crossroads a person can face. It's not just a relationship question, it's a self-worth question, a safety question, a future question. And I want you to know that whatever you're feeling right now, you are not alone. You're not dramatic, you're not weak, you're human. So today we're going to walk through this topic with compassion, honesty, and clarity. We're going to look at what the research says, what healing requires, and how to make a decision that honors your dignity. And we're going to do it all in a way that doesn't shame you for loving someone who hurts you. Because once again, two things can be true. This can be a very loving person who you love deeply, but this person can also and did hurt you. So we're going to talk about all of that today. But before we do that, I want to take a minute to revisit last week's episode because it laid the foundation for today's conversation. So last week we talked about why people stay with partners who cheat. And understanding that is essential before we can talk about whether you should stay. So let's get started. Last week's episode was a powerful one, and honestly, it struck a chord with so many of you. We talked about something people often judge from the outside, but rarely understand from the inside, and that is why do people stay with partners who cheat? And the truth is, the reasons are far more complex and far more human than most people realize. So last week we explored attachment theory and how our early experiences shape the way we respond to trauma. People with anxious attachment, for example, often cling harder after infidelity because the fear of abandonment becomes overwhelming. It's not weakness, it's wiring. We also talked about trauma bonding, which happens when cycles of hurt and repair create a powerful emotional loop. So when someone hurts you and then comforts you, the bond can actually intensify. I know it's confusing, but it's real and it's something that does happen. Then we looked at the investment model, and that is when you have built a life with someone, shared finances, children, routines, memories. Leaving isn't just emotional, it then becomes logistical, it's social, it's financial, and it's everything because your life is intertwined with your partners. And finally, we talked about shame. So many betrayed partners internalize the cheating as a reflection of their worth. They think, if I were enough, this wouldn't have happened. But that's not true. Infidelity is about the person who cheated, not the person who was betrayed. So today we're going to build on that foundation because once you understand why people stay, the next step is asking, should I? And where does healing begin and what does it look like for me, whether I decide to stay or whether I decide to leave? I want to take a moment to share something that can support you if you're ready to go deeper in your healing journey. My 12-week trauma-informed coaching program, You Are Worth Loving, is designed specifically for women who are healing from emotional abuse, rebuilding self-trust, and learning how to choose relationships that feel safe, healthy, and aligned. Inside the program, we work together to help you understand your attachment patterns, rebuild your sense of worthiness, learn how to set boundaries without guilt, break free from cycles of emotional unavailability, strengthen your intuition, and create a vision for healthy love. This isn't a surface level program, it's deeply supportive, emotionally safe, where you can heal at your own pace. You'll receive weekly coaching, guided exercises, and tools rooted in research from leading psychiatrists. Their work on attachment, trauma, and self-compassion forms the foundation of the program. Some of the psychologists we will be using their research on is Dr. Sue Johnson, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, and Dr. Kirsten Neff. Their work is amazing, and I've used a lot of it in the podcast. So this is what we use to build our program and to make sure that people who are in the program get the help that they need. If you've been listening to this podcast and thinking, I know what I need to do, but I don't know how to actually do it, then this program is for you. You don't have to navigate healing alone. You don't have to guess your way through dating or relationships. You deserve support, clarity, and a roadmap. So, if you're interested in joining the next class, stay tuned. Enrollment opens soon, and I would love to walk alongside you on this journey. Now, let's get back into today's episode. Before you can decide whether to stay or whether to go, it helps to understand why people cheat in the first place. And I want to be clear, understanding is not the same as excusing, but clarity can help you make a decision that isn't rooted in self-blame. So psychologist Esther Perel, who has spent decades studying infidelity, says that cheating is often less about the partner being betrayed and more about the person who cheats trying to reconnect with a lost part of themselves. It's about desire, not just sexual desire, but the desire to feel alive, valued, or seen. Sometimes people cheat not because they're unhappy with their partner, but because they're unhappy with themselves. Then there's the work of Dr. Shirley Glass, who found that emotional affairs can be just as damaging as physical ones. And we're going to talk more about that next week. She talks about the walls and windows model, how betrayal begins when someone closes the emotional window to their partner and opens it to someone else. It's not always about sex. Sometimes it's about secrecy, validation, or escape. And Dr. John Gottman, one of the most respected relationship researchers, discovered that cheating rarely starts with a big decision. It starts with small boundary crossings, a private message, a secret lunch, a moment of intimacy, emotional intimacy that should be shared with your partner, that should have stayed inside the relationship, but often goes outward. Betrayal grows in the shadows long before it becomes an affair. And understanding these dynamics doesn't make the pain go away, but it can help you see that cheating is rarely about your worth. It's about someone else's choices, wounds, and boundaries, not your value. If you've been cheated on, you know the emotional impact isn't just heartbreak. It's a full body experience. Research shows that betrayal can trigger symptoms similar to trauma. You might find yourself replaying conversations, checking phones, or feeling like you're constantly on edge. You might have trouble sleeping, eating, or concentrating. You might feel like you've lost your sense of reality. And that's because betrayal shakes the foundation of safety. It disrupts your sense of identity. It makes you question your judgment, your attractiveness, your worth. It can make you feel like the world you trusted has suddenly shifted beneath your feet. It can also make you feel like your world is falling apart. Dr. Shirley Glass found that the injured partner often experienced something called relationship post-traumatic stress disorder, which can have intrusive thoughts, emotional flooding, hypervigilance. These are not signs that you're overreacting. These are not signs that you're going crazy. They're signs that your nervous system is trying to make sense of a threat. You may also feel a deep sense of shame. Shame that you didn't see it coming, shame that you still love them, shame that you considered staying. But I want you to hear this clearly. Your reaction is not dramatic, it's human, it's valid, and it makes total sense. You were betrayed, not because you weren't enough, but because someone else made a choice that validated your trust. And the emotional fallout you're experiencing is a normal response to an abnormal situation. Before you make any decision, you deserve space to understand what you're feeling and why. And you deserve compassion, especially from yourself. So let's talk about something that feels almost impossible. In the aftermath of betrayal, rebuilding trust. Some couples can do it, and some even come out stronger. But it requires very specific things. Not hope, not promises, not time alone. It requires action, accountability, and emotional courage. Dr. John Gottman describes the repair process as attune, and attach. Atone means the unfaithful partner takes full responsibility, no excuses, no minimizing, no, but you weren't meeting my needs, just ownership. Attune means they show empathy. They answer your questions without defensiveness. They validate your pain instead of rushing you to quote unquote move on. They understand that rebuilding trust is a marathon and not a sprint. Attach is the long-term process of rebuilding emotional connection through consistent, trustworthy behavior. Dr. Shirley Glass addresses the window to the affair partner must completely closed. So that means no contact, no secrecy, no lingering emotional ties, and a new window, one of openness, honesty, and vulnerability, must open between the two of you. Here's what genuine repair looks like. They are transparent with their phones, their schedule, and their communication. They show empathy instead of defensiveness. They demonstrate change through consistent action. They are willing to go to therapy, individually and as a couple. They understand that your healing has no timeline. If these pieces aren't present, rebuilding trust becomes nearly impossible. Repair is possible, but only when both people are committed to the process. Before you make any decision about staying or leaving, it's important to pause and reflect. Not from a place of fear, pressure, or panic, but from a place of clarity. Psychologist Harriet Lerner, who writes extensively about boundaries and self-worth, encourages people to ask themselves questions that can help them reconnect with their inner truth. Here are some questions to sit with, okay? Am I staying because I want to or because I'm afraid to leave? Fear can sometimes feel like love when you're hurting, but they are totally not the same. Question number 2. Has my partner shown sustained change or just temporary remorse? Remorse is a feeling. Change is a pattern. Question number 3. Do I feel emotionally safe with them? Safety isn't about perfection. It's about consistency, honesty, and respect. Question number 4. What do I need to heal? And is my partner capable of meeting those needs? Not willing, but capable. Those are two different things, because sometimes people can be willing to do something, but they're just not capable of doing it. Okay, our next question. If I imagine myself 5 years from now, what choice aligns with the version of me I want to become? Sometimes the future version of you knows what the present version of you is afraid to admit. These questions aren't about judging yourself or your partner. They're just about grounding yourself in your values, your dignity, and your emotional well-being. You don't have to answer them all at once or all today. That can be overwhelming and daunting, right? And you don't have to answer them perfectly. You just have to be honest with yourself and eventually with your partner. Whether you stay or go, healing is essential and is necessary. Healing doesn't happen passively. It happens through intentional, compassionate steps. Betrayal shakes your nervous system, your identity, and your sense of safety. So let's talk about the practical ways to begin rebuilding yourself from the inside out. Number 1, regulate your nervous system. So we talked about how betrayal puts your body into survival mode. You might feel anxious, restless, or emotionally flooded. Practices like deep breathing, grounding exercises, or a gentle movement can help calm your nervous system. Even a 5-minute walk can shift your emotional state. Exercise number 2, journal without judgment. Writing helps organize emotional chaos. So try prompts like, what am I feeling right now? What do I need today? What fears are coming up for me? You don't have to write beautifully, just honestly. Exercise number 3, seek safe support. So this is important, okay? Talk to people who can hold space for you, not people who rush you to quote-unquote, just leave, or quote-unquote, just forgive. Maybe a therapist who's trained in betrayal trauma can be especially helpful during this time. Exercise number 4, set immediate boundaries. You're allowed to say, I need space. I need to really talk about, I'm not ready to talk about reconciliation, because sometimes that is rushed, right? So you're allowed to say you're not ready to talk about that right now. You're allowed to say, I need transparency if we're going to move forward. You're allowed to say, boundaries create emotional safety, because all of that is true, and you need to have that space to think and determine what is the right course of action for you. Exercise number 3, rebuild your sense of self. Infidelity can fracture your identity, so reconnect with hobbies, passions, and people who remind you of your worth. Self-compassion, according to researcher Kirsten Neff, is one of the strongest predictions of healing. And 6, this is important, delay major decisions. You don't have to decide today. Give yourself permission to pause. Clarity comes when your nervous system is calm, not when it's overwhelmed. And whether you decide to stay or leave, that's a huge decision, right? So this is not a decision that should be made out of anger or emotions. It needs clarity. It needs calm. And before that happens, your nervous system needs to calm and regulate. So I do encourage you, before you make any major decisions, it's important to leave. Now, I do want to point out and say one thing, okay? None of this applies if abuse is happening, okay? So if abuse is happening, I don't want you to wait. I don't want you to delay your decision, because we know that domestic violence can lead to other things like murder and death, and it's very harmful, not just for you, but if you have kids as well. So if domestic violence is happening or is involved in this situation in any way, I do strongly, highly encourage you to leave immediately, okay? And to get that clarity and that space away in a safe situation, away from that toxic, violent situation, okay? So this does apply, except if domestic violence is present. So what we're going to do right now is talk about reconciliation, okay? Some couples do rebuild after infidelity, and some rebuild beautifully. But reconciliation isn't about being strong enough or loving enough. It's about whether the conditions for healing and repair actually exist. Because sometimes in some situations, healing and repair is possible. But then in other situations, the atmosphere is just not right for it. And it's something that no matter how hard you try, something that no matter how hard you try, if the conditions aren't right, it may not happen. So reconciliation is possible when the affair is fully ended. That means no contact, no secrecy, no emotional ties. The unfaithful partner is genuinely remorseful, not just regretful. They take full responsibility without blaming you or the relationship. Both partners commit to therapy. There is a foundation of respect and emotional connection to rebuild from. Reconciliation is not healthy when there is repeated cheating. There is gaslighting or manipulation. The unfaithful partner minimizes the betrayal. There is continued secrecy or defensiveness, and you feel smaller, not stronger in the relationship. Here's the truth. Reconciliation requires both people to do the work, okay? Leaving requires one person deciding they deserve better. Both paths take courage. Both paths take healing. And both paths can lead to a future where you feel whole again. You don't have to choose today. You don't have to choose alone. You just have to be honest with yourself and honor what your heart and your body are telling you. Now, next week, we're going to talk a little bit more. Only we're going to go more into the emotional affair aspect of cheating, and we'll talk about that a little bit more next week. But I hope this has been helpful, and that as we talk about these things, because it's important to realize that these things do happen, right? And when it happens, it's more about healing, okay? And once we heal, once we begin to reconnect with ourselves, then we'll be able to make decisions that will benefit our healing, our integrity, our growth, and who we are. Sometimes staying is a good decision, right? And then sometimes it's not. But once you're beginning your healing process and you ask yourself these questions and you think about what you want, what you need, even what you want to be, who you want to be in 5 years, because the decisions we make today affect who we're going to be in the future. So once we take that time to let our nervous system reset, calm down, we can make logical, rational decisions based on who we are as people and what works for us, and if healing is possible as far as the relationship is concerned. Remember, this is not about the relationship. It's about you and what works for you. Staying or going, either way, is not wrong. So there's no right answer to this. There's no wrong answer. It just depends on what you are able to do, if repair is possible, if repair is not possible, and what you choose to do. Now, the song we're going to listen to this week is by our podcast artist and my alter ego, Emery Rose, and it is called Walk a Mile in My Shoes. And I think this song is perfect because it's about why we shouldn't judge people or tell them what to do in these types of situations. So here's the song, Walk a Mile in My Shoes.
what you could by my silence, but I'm telling everyone about everything you did, about everything you done. No more thinking about what people will think of you. Maybe they should see you for who you really are. You always try to make it seem like I'm this jealous, crazy woman, but they don't hear the lies you tell me or know what you put me through. You always try to make it seem like I'm this jealous, crazy woman, but they don't hear the lies you tell me or know what you put me through. Don't tell me what I should do. Don't judge me for what I do. If you haven't walked a mile in my shoes, don't tell me what I should do. Don't tell me what I should do. Don't judge me for what I do. If you haven't walked a mile in my shoes. It's easy to point out my flaws and ignore the wrong you've done, trying to deflect and lie while I sit at home and cry. But you're telling people that I just walked away without telling them that your girlfriend's got in the way. You always try to make it seem like I'm this jealous, crazy woman, but they don't hear the lies you tell me and know what you put me through. You always try to make it seem like I'm this jealous, crazy woman, but they don't hear the lies you tell me and know what you put me through. Don't tell me what I should do. Don't judge me for what I do. If you haven't walked a mile in my shoes, don't tell me what I should do. Don't tell me what I should do. Don't judge me for what I do. If you haven't walked a mile in my shoes, you can't have your cake and eat it too. That is why I walked out on you. But people will never know about this betrayal, 'cause all you do is put the blame on me. Don't tell me what I should do. Don't judge me for what I do. If you haven't walked a mile in my shoes, don't tell me what I should do. Don't judge me for what I do. If you haven't walked a mile in my shoes, don't tell me what I should do. Don't tell me what I should do. Don't judge me for what I do. If you haven't walked a mile in my shoes, don't tell me what I should do. Don't judge me for what I do. If you haven't walked a mile in my shoes.
As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this. There is no universal right answer to the question, should I take my cheating partner back? There is only the answer that honors your dignity, your emotional safety, and your long-term well-being. You are not weak for considering staying. You are not foolish to consider leaving. You are a human being navigating one of the most painful experiences that a heart can endure. Healing is possible whether you stay or go. You can rebuild trust with a partner who is willing to do the work, and you can rebuild your life without them if they're not. You can rediscover your worth, your voice, your strength, and your joy. You are not broken. You are not unlovable. You are not defined by someone else's choices. You are worth loving, deeply, fully, and without betrayal. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I am sending you so much compassion and strength as you navigate this chapter of your life. Take care of your heart, be gentle with yourself, and remember, you deserve a love that chooses you every single day. Until next week, I'm your host, Keana W. Mitchell, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.